All right, everyone. Ready for a deep dive into a world where sweeping at night is basically a recipe for disaster, and singing in the kitchen could leave you solo for life.
Sounds intriguing, right?
Oh, it is! We're talking Filipino superstitions and beliefs today, and let me tell you, this festive Pinoy article is blowing my mind. It's like looking at everyday life through a totally different lens.
What's striking is how these beliefs aren't just like abstract ideas for Filipinos. They're woven into the everyday. It's like this constant awareness of a spirit world that exists alongside our own.
Yeah, it's like every little thing you do takes on a whole new meaning. Imagine thinking sweeping your floor after dinner could sweep away your good luck too.
Yeah.
Makes you rethink those chores, huh?
It really makes you wonder. And it's a great example of how these superstitions often come back to this idea of maintaining balance between the material and spiritual worlds. A balance between actions and their unseen consequences.
Okay, so like cause and effect, but with a mystical twist.
Exactly.
And that even applies to something as simple as like an itchy palm.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So itchy right palm, good fortune's coming my way. But if my left palm starts itching...
Maybe hold on to your wallet a little tighter.
No kidding. It's wild how these like simple everyday things can hold so much meaning.
It is. And, it gets even more interesting when you consider the history. These everyday superstitions, they often connect back to this really complex blend of cultural and historical influences.
Oh, like what?
We're talking about indigenous animist beliefs that have been around for centuries, mixed with traces of Hindu-Buddhist concepts that arrived ages ago. And then, of course, elements of Christianity, which kind of wove their way into these existing traditions.
Wow, it's like this fascinating cultural tapestry. Each thread is a different layer of history and belief.
Exactly.
So that itchy palm, it might just seem like a random thing to us, but in Filipino culture, it could be a message from unseen forces, like a reminder that luck, good or bad, is always in play.
Absolutely. And those influences become even clearer when you look at how these beliefs actually play out in daily life. Like take the whole thing about singing while cooking.
Oh man, that one's a classic. As someone who belts out a mean rendition of "My heart will go on while waiting for the pasta water to boil," well, let's just say this superstition caught my attention. A little kitchen karaoke could lead to a lifetime of being single, huh?
Makes you wonder if those impromptu concerts are worth the risk. But it makes sense when you think about how central food and celebrations are in Filipino culture.
Totally. And speaking of celebrations, in Filipino culture, it's like they're hardwired for good fortune. Every detail carefully chosen to invite those blessings and ward off any bad vibes, like planning a party with a cosmic insurance policy.
I like that, a cosmic insurance policy. And a great example of that is this: rain on a wedding day.
Oh man, my first thought is always, oh no, the dress. But in Filipino culture, rain on a wedding day, that's a good omen.
It is. A total reversal from what a lot of us grew up with, and a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier, balance. Some cultures see rain as a disruption, maybe even a symbol of sadness. But in Filipino culture, it's abundance, cleansing, a fresh start.
Almost like a metaphor for life, right? You can't always control the weather, but you can control how you react to it.
Exactly.
And speaking of finding the positive, we can't forget about pancit, those delicious noodles that are a must-have at Filipino celebrations.
Ah, pancit, right. They symbolize long life, which is why you see them everywhere at birthday parties and these important gatherings.
It reminds me of how other cultures use those long noodles to represent longevity too. It's so cool to see those shared threads of belief, across different cultures.
Really, it speaks to something universal, right? That desire for a long and happy life. But while everyone loves pancit, there is one gift you don't want to bring to a Filipino celebration: pearls.
Oh yeah, gifting pearls at a wedding, that's a big no-no.
Big one.
They're thought to resemble tears, which kind of puts a damper on the whole celebratory mood, right?
Definitely, and it highlights how important symbolism is in these Filipino superstitions. Even objects that seem totally harmless to outsiders
Can have a whole other meaning.
Exactly.
It's like this whole other level of cultural awareness, like they're paying attention to these details most of us wouldn't even think about.
I know, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And that awareness goes way beyond everyday objects and even celebrations. The article dives into Filipino folklore too. Talk about captivating. It's this blend of cautionary tales, and these almost fantastical explanations for the unknown.
Okay, yeah, this is where things get really interesting. It's like stepping into this world where ancient myths and modern life, they just like collide.
Yeah.
Like the capre, right? There's giant that chills in trees, puffing on cigars. I don't know about you, but makes me want to double check any shadowy branches at night.
Right. The capra, it's a great example of how these folklore creatures, they aren't just scary stories, you know?
Oh, for sure.
They're more like warnings, reminding people about the unknown out there, the dangers hiding in plain sight. But they're also what keep those stories alive, passing them down from generation to generation.
Yeah, totally. And then there's the tikbalang, this half-human, half-horse trickster who can like mess with travelers, make them lose their way. It reminds me of other myths, you know?
Yeah.
Like the centaurs from Greek mythology.
It's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
How these different cultures, they combine human and animal traits, create these mythical beings, these creatures.
It's like a universal thing.
Yeah.
And the tikbalang, it kind of represents that, you know, like that unpredictability. Things aren't always what they seem, especially when you're somewhere new, out of your element.
Definitely.
And speaking of out of your element, the article also mentions the aswang. And that, honestly, that sounds terrifying, like straight out of a horror movie.
Oh, the aswang. Yeah, definitely an intense one. It preys on pregnant women and their unborn children. This shape-shifting creature.
Oh, wow.
It's a primal fear.
It makes you realize these superstitions, they come from real anxieties, real dangers that people face.
Definitely, yeah.
But the article makes a good point, too. Filipino superstitions, it's not just about dodging bad luck or mythical creatures. There's this whole other side of it, this idea of like keeping things harmonious with the spirit world.
Exactly. It's about recognizing there's more to the world than what we can see.
Right.
And interacting with it respectfully.
Right.
Like, take the practice of saying tabi kabi po.
Oh, yeah, when you're passing by someplace unfamiliar. Right.
Exactly. It's a simple phrase, but it says a lot. Like, excuse me, but to the spirits that might be present.
Yeah.
You know, it's about respect, awareness, values that honestly a lot of cultures share.
Totally. And then there's the whole thing about sleeping with your feet facing the door.
Right.
The article said it's because it looks like how the deceased are positioned.
Yeah. You know, that one always makes you think how people, no matter where they come from, try to make sense of the world, you know, life, death, everything in between.
It's like these beliefs, they give us a glimpse into a culture's wisdom, their fears, their hopes. It's been amazing, you know, diving into these Filipino superstitions and beliefs.
It really has.
Yeah.
It's so enriching to look at different cultures this way, you know. It pushes us to see things differently.
Absolutely. It reminds us there's so many ways to see the world. And who knows, maybe learning about these different perspectives, well, maybe it helps us understand ourselves a little better too. So next time you think about sweeping up after sunset or belting out a tune while you cook, think back to what we've talked about today. You never know what you might discover. Until next time, keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and keep diving deep.